I'm Captain Ken Knudsen. Been guiding a number of years here in Islamorada. I started guiding in February 1962 out of a small resort here my parents built called the Kon-Tiki Resort. And then I joined the Coast Guard for 4 years from 1969 to 1973. And I got out of the Coast Guard, started guiding professionally in 1973 here in Islamorada. And I'm going to tell an amazing fish story which is based on a set of circumstances and coincidences. This story is based on a date of May 2nd, 1978. Now, May 2nd is my brother's birthday, and we always have a family get-together for all our birthdays and anniversaries in our family. But 2 days ahead, my brother found out he had to go out of state on business, and so I had the evening open, and I'd been promising my mother-in-law, Virginia Russell, and my wife, Juanita Russell Knudsen, that I would take them both out together on a sunset tarpon trip. So it was fitting that May 2nd, in 2 days from now, I was going to take them out in a boat fishing at sunset. I didn't have a trip because we had taken off the time for a birthday party, which didn't happen. And so my mother-in-law, Virginia, and my wife, Juanita, get in my skiff at Bud and Mary's Marina, and we go tarpon fishing. And we're going down the Channel 2 Bridge for a nice few hours on the water at sunset. It was a nice kind of calm evening. And go down to Channel 2, and I'm anchored up at the south end of the bridge on the bay side, about a half mile from the bridge. And we're fishing there, and there's tarpon rolling around the boat. And after about 20 minutes, this is 6 o'clock in the evening, by the way, 6 o'clock in the evening, my wife gets a tarpon bite on a live pinfish, and she sets a hook and hooks this tarpon, and it's running. It takes the smoker 200-yard run with the current in towards deeper into the bay, and I throw the anchor off. My mother-in-law, Virginia, reels in her line as fast as she can so we can chase this fish before we run out of line. So we fight the fish for 35 minutes, and it's over 120-pound tarpon. So at the 35-minute mark of the fight, the tarpon takes another 80-foot screeching run and does a tremendous jump, beautiful jump, gills flared, mouth open, shaking his head right and left, and the hook pings right out of his mouth. So we reel in our line, and we start the engine back up. We get back up to the anchor, which we threw off. There's tarpon starting to roll around the boat again. So we got our baits in the fish. And it was a calm night, and it was sunset, and I hear a noise that seemed to come from the north end of Channel 2 Bridge. I look over there, but I don't see anything at all. I don't see a boat, I don't see a car, I don't see a person. No one's fishing off the bridge at all. I see a whirlwind over there at the end of the bridge. It was like a mini twister with dust flying around it and maybe some little pieces of paper in it, but it caught my eye from 3/4 of a mile away, and I'm thinking, what's going on over there? I heard something like a crash. I kept looking over there. About every 30 seconds I look over to that area. Probably 3 minutes after I heard this crash, I see it like a little square box coming under the archway of the north end of Channel 2 Bridge. It's just the corner of like a square box, only sticking about a foot above the water. And I'm 3/4 of a mile away, and certainly doesn't look like much to me, but something told me to reel in fast. I told my two lady anglers, reel in full speed. I threw off the anchor into the water, the buoys on the anchor, and I go over there full speed, but I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was going to find. I had no idea. I get over to it, and I'm about 100 feet away from this pointed square box, and it sinks down to the bottom. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't tell if it was a whale shark dorsal fin. It was pointed and came to a corner like a pointed fin or something. But as I get over closer to it, I see some bubbles coming out from the bottom. I jump in the water. My wife's an experienced boat driver, so she's driving the boat. I told her, get up current of those bubbles, and I dive into the water and I go down, and I see a vehicle underwater. I said, holy smokes, I would have never guessed this. There's a truck sunk on the bottom, and it's tilted at a 45-degree angle. It's not sitting on all four tires straight up and down like on a road. It's at a 45-degree angle. So I instantly go down, and I'm trying to look through a window. I don't see anything. It's kind of dark down there. I'm down, it's actually 22 feet deep at the place where it sank. It's the deepest hole around, 22 feet deep. I crawl up the side of the vehicle and get to what would be the roof. And there's a split in the roof about 3 feet long and about a foot wide. But I get up to this hole in the roof, and I put my head in the hole of the roof, and lo and behold, 1 foot away from my face is a person looking at me, one eye open, one eye shut. I'll never forget that scene. It instantly reminded me of that scene in the movie Jaws, of that underwater scene there. And where people yelled in the theater, and I yelled underwater, believe me. I hit my head on that metal of the roof when this person was looking at me. But I then realized that he was lifeless, and he had dried blood all over his face, had many cuts all over his face. His lips were bleeding with dried blood, but no active blood, no blood like going out into the water, dispersing. It was all dried blood. It was kind of strange. And I got back to my senses. Hey, man, I gotta get this guy out of here. Now, he had already been underwater for several minutes at best. I grabbed his hair at first, and luckily, we didn't have to have seatbelts on in those days, and luckily he did not, should I say luckily, did not have a seatbelt on, or I wouldn't be able to get him out of there at all. So I grabbed his hair and got him up towards the hole in the roof, and then I put both my feet on the roof of the truck, and I got my arms underneath his armpits, and I pulled him up and out of that tight crevice, the break in the roof, but his clothes kept tearing on the jagged metal, but I kept pulling because time was of the essence. Every minute counts. And so I grabbed him by the armpits, I pulled him up and got him out through that hole and got him up to the surface. And getting him to the surface was an easy part. That was a breeze. We get up to the surface, and lo and behold, Juanita just happened, almost by accident, had the boat in almost perfect position, about 10 feet away from where I came up, because there still was a few bubbles coming up, she said, so she knew where to put the boat. And so I laid this victim on the back of my boat, laid him out flat. He's lifeless, and he looks pretty bad. He's beat up, blood everywhere. But I said, I'm going to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. So I gave him mouth-to-mouth, and after about a minute and a half, he started breathing on his own. I said, my gosh, this is like a miracle, because I never had really done that before to a person. I had many courses in mouth-to-mouth and CPR through the Coast Guard. So we run in full speed into Colusico Marina, lay him on the dock waiting for the ambulance. Now, there's a whole set of circumstances here. Nothing here happens. Number one is May 2nd. I'm out for dinner with my brother. Number two, if my mother-in-law and my wife did not want to go fishing that night, we wouldn't have been out there. And if she fights the fish for 4 minutes longer, we don't hear anything. We don't hear the crash. We don't see the whirlwind. We don't know anything. But it's based on the fact that the tarpon got away when it got away. The person was airlifted from Mariners Hospital here in the Keys to a hospital in Miami by helicopter, and he's in critical condition. My wife calls the hospital. He is in critical condition. Calls the next day. He's still in really bad condition. She calls the next day again, and they wouldn't give her the status, his status of health at that time. So my wife is thinking that the victim has passed away. The very next day, I am home, and a car pulls into our driveway here in Islamorada, and my wife looks out through the window and says to me, "That looks like the guy you saved." He has bandages on his face. He had 40 stitches between his neck and his face. He had 40 stitches in him. He looked kind of bad, but he was walking under his own power and driving a car. So he was doing good mentally. He walks up to the front door of my house, knocks on the door and says, "Is this where Ken Knudsen lives?" But anyway, he gives me a big hug, and we have a good time. We talk for an hour together, the three of us. And I didn't see him again for another year. He shows up again on Christmas Day a year later. And we talk again. And he shows up one more Christmas after that. He tells me, "Ken, I'm going to move to California and live with my daughter." And that was the last time I ever heard from Allison Richard Evans.